LaGuardia Airport, Michael Schumacher, and Pocahontas are all on this day. Welcome back to On This Day. Today's date is December 29th, 2022. It is the 363rd day of the year. You got 2 days left. Today is the 52nd Thursday in the 53rd week and the 9th day of winter. You got 81 days left until spring. And today is National Pepper Pot Day. National Pepper Pot Day is celebrated every year on December 29th. It is meant to celebrate the soup that has been nicknamed the soup that won the war. The war here refers to the American Revolutionary War. The Philadelphia Pepper Pot soup is a thick soup made up of beef and whatever vegetables are available, and of course peppercorn. This peppery soup has a long history and probably originates from the Caribbean. It was brought over to America by enslaved people who later sold the soup out in the streets. The soup is what the Army ate to survive the winter in 1777, and that's how it earned the nickname, the soup that won the war. All right, let's see what else December 29th has given us. 1607, according to John Smith, Pocahontas, daughter of Powhatan, I think that's how you pronounce the name, successfully pleads for his life after tribal leaders attempted to execute him. 1778, the American Revolutionary War, 3,000 British soldiers under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Archibald Campbell capture Savannah, Georgia. 1876, the Ashtabula River Railroad disaster occurs, leaving 64 people injured and 92 dead at Ashtabula, Ohio. That's kind of a lot. Now, this is back in the day when train travel was everything. At the time, the United States had some 170,000 miles of train track. And if you needed to travel long distance over land and didn't feel like smelling the backside of a horse all day, this is how you did it. Back in the day, Ohio was a major hub of rail activity. And a lot of this thanks to an industrialist named Amasa Stone. This guy had built a rail empire throughout Ohio and a little bit outside of Ohio. He bought the rights to a truss-type bridge, and he decided to put one across the Ashtabula River. This bridge had all kinds of problems. The first thing was, at the time, the Army Corps of Engineers said a truss bridge should be no longer than 150 feet. His was over 155 feet. These type of bridges were normally made partially of wood and partially of iron. He decided to build his completely out of iron to make it stronger. Well, this made it too heavy in reality. The engineer that he had hired to help him with this project disagreed with the whole process. He said the beams were too thin for the load, the bridge was too heavy, all the things that were glaringly obvious, but Stone got rid of him and decided to go on with his plan. When they had the bridge in place and they removed all the safety elements, the bridge kind of bowed and eventually buckled in places. So they had some engineers come out and they said, well, this bridge is too heavy, but if you make some changes that they gave, it would probably be sufficient. It wasn't. On December 29th, 1876, weather conditions in the Ohio area were extreme. Temperatures were well below zero, and they were in what was called a blinding blizzard. On that day, a train known as the Pacific Express was about 2 hours behind schedule. This was a passenger train, and it consisted of 2 engines, a couple baggage cars, 3 coach cars, 3 sleeper cars, and a smoking car. As the train approached the Ashtabula station, it had cut power and kind of coasted in. This was sort of typical for this station because the bridge was less than 1,000 feet from the station. As the first engine cleared the bridge, the driver heard a snap and felt the engine slide backwards a little bit. So he gunned it as best he could to get power. That's the only car that made it across was the first engine. The second engine, the express cars, all fell into the icy river 75 feet below. It didn't stop there. A lot of the trains were still attached and basically drug the rest of the cars down into the chasm. There's some dispute with how many people were actually on the train. Some say it was 160 people, some say it was 180 people. But the people that survived had to deal with a couple things. First of all, they just fell into a chasm, weather conditions. They're on a frozen river, which now has water everywhere, freezing water at that, and then the train catches fire. The driver of the train, who was still on the tracks that didn't fall in, he started blowing the horn as loud as he could, trying to get as much attention to anyone that would show up. pretty much the entire town, if they could walk, they went down to the crash site and carried survivors almost a half a mile to the nearest hotel. Back in the day, they didn't have a hospital here. They had a few doctors. That was it. So the train's on fire, the bridge is on fire, and the fire department shows up. The fire chief shows up drunk. He said there was no point in fighting the fire because it was a lost cause. Well, the locals didn't agree with this, so they formed a bucket brigade while a fire engine with a water pump sat idle. Sadly, their efforts didn't save a lot of people, and people that were trapped in the wreckage, some of them burned to death. As you can imagine, because of this, there was a lot of laws passed. Like trains had to have self-extinguishing stoves, and most importantly, fire departments now had regulations where they had to attempt to put out a fire. 1913, Cecil B. DeMille starts filming Hollywood's first feature film, The Squaw Man. 1934, Japan renounces Washington's Naval Treaty of 1922 and the London Naval Treaty of 1930. 1975, a bomb explodes at LaGuardia Airport in New York City, killing 11 people and injuring 75. 2013, seven-time Formula One champion Michael Schumacher suffers a massive head injury while skiing in the French Alps. Now, this is sad. He hasn't been seen really in public since then. He was in a coma for a long time and he came out of the coma. They've been very tight-lipped on his condition and all that stuff, which is his right. I mean, he's a private citizen and his family wants to keep it, in-house, I guess you could say. His wife did say that we miss him. He's there, but we miss Michael. Movies released on December 29th, 1967, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. This was a great Clint Eastwood movie. This is known as a spaghetti western because back in the day, a lot of westerns went over and got filmed in Italy because similar terrain as the American West in parts, and it was a lot cheaper. Anyway, in the movie, three men are racing to find a buried fortune. The film was the third in the Dollars trilogy, following A Fistful of Dollars and A Few Dollars More. Born on December 29th, 1808, Andrew Johnson. He became the 17th president of the United States. He ascended to the office following the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. He briefly worked as an apprentice tailor before running away from home at the age of 16. His Reconstruction policies placed him directly in the crosshairs of Congress, and he became the first president to be impeached by the House of Representatives. He was acquitted by the Senate by just one vote. I think I've said this before, that, it's one thing to be impeached, which you're always impeached, but to be convicted by the Senate means you're run out of office, basically, and that does no good for anyone. Just makes the country look bad. Impeachment's bad enough, but to actually have a president removed, which would have happened to Nixon if he wouldn't have resigned, they say, I don't know. It's just never good. He was succeeded by former Union Army general and Civil War hero Ulysses S. Grant. Died on December 29th, 2010, Bill Irwin. You probably don't remember him, but he was a longtime actor, and he was Emmy nominated for his role as Sid Fields in the sitcom Seinfeld. But he was a working character actor, and he did a lot of things, including Star Trek, I Love Lucy, Man from Del Rio. He was in the movie Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeves. After earning a journalism degree from the University of Texas in Austin, he studied theater at Southern California's Pasadena Playhouse and went on to serve in World War II. Pasadena Playhouse turned out a lot of great actors. I've gone through this before, but I'll name some of them in case you missed that one. Ed Asner, Ernest Borgnine, Wayne Brady, Charles Bronson, Raymond Burr, Ruth Buzzy, Gene Hackman, Jamie Farr, Dustin Hoffman, William Holden, Nick Nolte, David Niven, Sally Struthers, Ariana Grande, Leonard Nimoy, and of course the late, great John Ritter. There's a bunch of other ones too. Bill Irwin died of natural causes at his home in Studio City, California on December 29, 2010 at the age of 96. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. Now go out, have a great day, and be nice to each other.